1, 2, 3, 4! From the Riffs!
Welcome back to From the Riffs. I'm Big Will Johnson, and this is Carmen Belair. And today we're going to be doing an in-depth look at
Riffs Dimension Book 11, and this one's Dyval, Hell Unleashed.
Hell Unleashed.
So
Nice.
basically, this book is the response to the Hades book. So it's the demons, or excuse me, the Deevils' response to the demons.
Yeah, so should probably highlight that that's focusing on the Minion War, which originally began in Palladium Fantasy.
Yep.
But we'll give you an overview of Dyval, which is it's a hell dimension. So hell-like, whatever your preference, your thoughts on hell would be, you know, flame, fire, all that stuff. However, it's a little different. It's kind of like a hell onion.
Yeah.
It's got layers, 7 to be exact. The 7 layers, I guess we can list them and kind of give you
we'll list
an
them.
idea.
But first, again, we need to explain that when we say hell, or hell-like dimension, it's not the afterlife.
The afterlife. This is hell as a world, as a place, as
a dimension,
another planet, if you will. Although, being the fact that this involves rifts and megaverse, but it's a world. People inhabit this world. This has nothing to do with your soul or what happens when you die.
But let's walk through them now.
Sure.
The 7 layers basically start if you dimensionally travel there, you'll start in Dyval Prime. Dyval Prime is like a giant forest. So when you get there, I mean, it'll look like a medieval, heavy, overgrown forest.
And I think part of that has to do with the kind of description of Deevils themselves.
Yes.
Devils are they're like goat men, and we'll get into that more. Well, a lot of them have the goat characteristics.
Yeah.
We'll get into that more as we go further along.
But they're more natural, and so their dimension reflects that. After Dyval Prime, if you
Dazonia?
Yeah.
Dazonia is essentially like an Amazonian jungle, lush and perilous all at the same time.
Now, when you go from one dimension to another, the whole onion thing comes in that each layer is more and more difficult to get through. So the only way into Dyval is into Dyval Prime. And then once you get into Dyval Prime, you have to find the certain gateways in order to get down to the next level.
Now,
so you just can't jump.
Yeah, and as you proceed, there are less and less gateways.
And they become more and more dangerous. So
next, we go to the Great Dyval Desert.
Yep.
And
it's a giant wasteland desert, something out of Dune. Giant monsters living through the sands, and demons and.
Pretty self-explanatory, really.
Yeah.
After that, we have tundra.
Yeah.
A
frozen
desert, a frozen wasteland, essentially.
So if you're a Canadian, you'll feel right at home.
Absolutely. And following tundra, we go to its polar opposite, so to speak, Inferno, which I guess would be similar to Hades.
Yes,
in some respects.
It is much more like Hades, and rivers of lava and flame and unbearable temperatures. It's just a horrible place. Mm-hmm. After that, we got the Mines of Dyval. Now, the Mines of Dyval basically is a dimension underground. So everything is subterranean in overall nature.
Okay. And after that, we have Grim Mortis, which is the Shadowlands, so to speak, and also the deepest level.
Grim Mortis represents basically all the other layers of Dyval
shadow
represented there in like a shadow quasi nature of what they represent. And when you gate to Grim Mortis, you'd always come from. So if like you came from Dazonia, you would land in the Dazonia counterpart, you know what I mean? So you kind of jump to the same place. That gives you an overview. That every place in there, I mean, it's described with what kind of devils live in each dimension, you know, what subject races are there, what slaves are there, you know, what you can encounter there, what the animals, the cities. It's all listed out for each one, so you get a nice, good overview of the dimension as a whole.
Up next, I guess we're going to talk about a little bit of the Deevils, how they are, their nature, so to speak. Unlike their counterparts, demons, they're less physically oriented. They prefer to let other people do the dirty work for them. They're more of your tempter. They would much rather talk you into doing something than fight you. That's not to say that they can't fight. It's just that they're smart enough not to. They don't rely on offensive power. They rely on suggestion.
Yeah, they're the schemers, the backstabbers, the manipulators.
They all work on Wall Street.
Yeah, it's their whole way of fighting. It's even reflected in their hierarchy. And now they have, you know, Dyval lords, the way demons have demon lords, and they have, you know, princes and dukes and all that kind of stuff. And then you get down to their graders, so they, just like the demons, they have graders, and then they have lessers. And then, but where the other ones would have, you know, fallen and sub-demons and all that, they don't. They have a host of other races that they basically manipulated, conned, schemed, you know, done various ways to get them into their host. And it's the host that does the primary of the fighting.
Yeah.
Led by, you know, 1 or 2 Deevils each.
We can get into now the Minion War and essentially how they've reacted or how they've acted in the Minion War, or how they react to what the demons have done.
Yeah, this book is very much the
We're not taking
counterpiece.
sides, but
yeah, it's the counterpiece to the Hades book. So the whole idea is that the demons start the battle and start everything off, jumping it up to that next level. And now the Deevils are forced to do something in retaliation, because if they don't, they're going to get overrun, and then that'll be it. Now, and 2, because they, just like the demons, when a Deevil dies in another dimension, he's simply reborn in Dyval. But when he dies in his own dimension, that's it, he's done. This works the same way that the demons do, which means that if the demons manage to make it into Dyval, they can provide permanent deaths. Where if the Deevils get to Hades, they can provide permanent deaths there. And so, you know, it causes a struggle. They both want to fight somewhere else, because if they fight in their own dimension, that's it. You know, their eternal lives are over.
Suddenly, their problem has now become our problem. Our being the rest of the Megaverse.
Yeah, exactly. So after that, we basically go through the various creatures. I'm going to grab a book here and just give a quick walkthrough. Now, most of these are the Deevils that have been in Palladium mythos, you know, since the beginning. But there are some new ones that have been created for this game, or for this book, excuse me. And as soon as I find that page. Okay, so for lessers, we have the Bonelings. Those are new. Then we have, you know, various ones we've used to before. We have Ice Race. Those are new. They're basically kind of like a wolfen, but frozen. That's the best way I would describe them. Then we have the Nexus Deevil. Now these are the ones I like. They're tempters, but their power kind of goes in dimension hopping. So they're kind of masters of interdimensional, which makes them a big deal in this. After that, we have the greater ones. Now we go through things like the Archfiend. We've seen those before. We've seen beasts and others before. We have the Deevil dragons, which are one of my favorites. Now these, they're basically a group of like dragon beings that have sold their offspring to the Deevils in exchange for magical power, and to be risen to that rank of greater Deevil. And again, it shows the Deevils' manipulation, that they would be willing to do that and willing to acquire them. Going with those, actually, well, no, the rest of the demons are basically those, or the Deevils, excuse me, are those we've seen before. But going with the Deevil dragons, there are the shock dragons, which are the offspring of the Deevil dragons, the eggs, that get magically, thaumaturgically altered to become shock troops. So I mean that shows what they do, adding them to their host. And then in the host we have the Crixon, which are new, and they're like a bug-like race. We have stalkers and tiger beasts and several others that round out the host. These are like the foot troopers of the Deevils. But that's basically it, and it's a pretty good book, and I guess that's it for From the Rifts.
Yeah, that's it. Take it easy.
See ya.